wasn't supposed to happen. Due to unforeseen yet planned future events, please allow me to reintroduce an old member of the Spindatt bike fleet. Allow me to explain. It actually took me a little bit of time to remember how this all took place, but if you remember back to the time when I stripped the Tricross to be raw like that bike, I didn't have a bike to ride home. So I went upstairs at the shop and I grabbed the KHS Flight 100, beautiful purple bike. It's the brakeless fixed gear that I've been riding on and off on the channel all the time. It's the only fixed gear that I own. I didn't actually get rid of that SE Racing silver track bike. It just kind of like sat around. If you watch the videos, you actually see it in the background all the time. I never got rid of it, I just said it wasn't mine. Because there was always the opportunity of us doing a Gold Sprint event again. And lo and behold, someone in town contacted me at the shop and said, hey, I want to do a Gold Sprint event, can we do it? So of course we can. So I had swapped the parts between the two, if you remember that, and now I need to swap them back because that bike is maybe a little bit big for a lot of people to fit. Both the bikes that we use are 53s, which can fit a vast amount of people. But yeah, that's what's going on right now. If you don't know what Gold Sprints are, think of it as like a stationary bike race between two people. Here, I'll just put a video up right now.
2, 1, hey!
Overall, it's just a wild, hilarious night of needless bike racing that is somewhat competitive. Typically there's beer involved. FYI, I typically do like half decent, but I puke every single time. So that's that. By the end of the day at the shop today, that bike will have all the parts that it had on it before back on it, and the KHS, I'll consider it back in shop care. I'm a little bit sad, but that bike was like maybe a tiny bit small anyway. Those of you with a keen eye, you may have noticed the absolute monstrosity of a gear on this. I've complained about it before. 4612. Phew. I'll be the first to admit, even though I'm always trying to defend myself for riding a brakeless track bike in the city, this is not a safe gear to be riding brakeless, and I do not endorse someone else to be riding this kind of gear brakeless in such a hilly city. I'm only doing it this one time. I'm being very careful, as I always do on a brakeless track bike, but even more so today. I've been doing a little bit of walking, and I anticipate doing more as I go over the bridge. Remember how often I used to shoot video right there? Back when I used to take the ferry every day? As cool as the KHS is, and as much as I like the way it looked, I gotta say, I'm kind of excited to be back on this thing. I don't know why, but it just feels right. I always really like the fit of this bike. It's just a lot longer, and with this fork on it, it's nice and low. Even though the frame size is like technically too big. I've got short legs and a long torso, so if I can get a bike nice and low and long, that's gonna be the bike for me. The KHS kind of wasn't, and well, it's serving a much better purpose now, so back to this for a while.
Honey, 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 honey,
All right, come on.
honey, honey, honey.
Welcome back to Silver Fixed Gear. Okay, before I end this, let's talk about riding in fixed gear in the city a little bit. Yeah? That sounds good. I really, really like track bikes and fixed gears. And so does Norton. I first got into the world of 700C wheels by riding a single speed, and then I very quickly graduated to riding a fixed gear rear wheel. There really isn't any way to beat the absolute simplicity of a fixed gear bike or a fixed gear build. Putting that bike back together was all of like 30 minutes of my time, and a selection of 3 different Allen keys, a bottom bracket tool, and a 15mm box wrench. That's all I needed to put that bike completely together. There's nothing to a single speed brakeless bike. It shouldn't take longer than that, and it doesn't. And because they're so simple, if you kind of follow my way of doing things and buying like reasonably priced stuff, in the world of a fixed gear, reasonably priced stuff is actually really good stuff. The next thing you know, you find yourself riding pretty good stuff for not too much money. And all that just kind of adds up to like much more enjoyment while riding. Not to mention it makes me better at pushing harder gears and gives me very little excuses for sucking while riding a geared bike. Maybe that's just tough internet talk. Anyway, all that to just sort of address the question and the concern that I typically get about featuring that bike in the videos all the time. Recently, comments come up where people are like, oh, you don't condone riding a fixed gear, do you? Especially a brakeless one. And I mean, I do. I can understand why, like, maybe if you're watching some of those, like, MASH videos, or if you're watching some of the produced videos that go up where people are riding incredibly reckless, and I can't help but feel like maybe you associate that with what I'm doing on my bikes. And while, yeah, from time to time I do something stupid with a bike, it doesn't necessarily mean it's on that fixed gear. Sometimes I do stupid things on the road with my cross bike or my mountain bike. The bike itself definitely does not dictate the way I'm going to make stupid decisions while on a bike. I do change the way I ride when I'm on that bike though. I ride significantly slower, and I am a lot more attentive about what's going on around me. My eyes are constantly scanning, trying to make eye contact with anybody else who's on the road, and I'm trying to watch what cars are doing. I'm trying to just keep myself from getting hit, which is probably also what I should be doing on a bike with brakes that does coast, but I definitely put a significant amount more effort while I'm riding a brakeless fixed gear bike in the city. It's a totally different experience, and I think that's half the reason why I like it so much, on top of the fact that it's so cheap to ride such a simple bike. Anyway, yeah, that's the reason that I ride a brakeless fixed gear bike in the city. It's really cheap, the bikes are cool, and I ride differently while I'm on it. I don't think they're unsafe, but I can understand why you think they would be. I need you to look at the camera. Yep. And we'll say,